Jesus, this woman's glasses are bigger than a fucking Coke bottle.
Yeah.
But...
Fuck. Fucking headphones.
Yeah, that's a butt, and then you used to me yell fuck.
Butt fuck.
Oh
my God.
Humor.
Your number one source for 13-year-old humor. Right here. So you watched the Triple G Canelo fight.
Yes, I did.
I unfortunately missed it. But it was apparently very controversial, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And my opinion personally, Triple G won that fight. No doubt about it. Canelo's strategy that he shifted to in the later half of the fight was really effective, but it wasn't enough. The judges' scorecards, did you see where they released the scorecards?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that Adelaide Bird, her scorecard, had it 10-2 Canelo.
If you watched that fight with a blindfold on, you might have came up with that score. But if you have functioning eyeballs and a functioning brain, you don't have to know boxing to know that Canelo did not win 10 rounds to 2. Like, you don't have to know boxing.
Who judged it a draw, though?
I don't know that guy's... I don't remember his name. But I will say this. If you're valuing certain things over other things, like if power punches mean more to you or counter shots mean more to you, because there is a little bit of leeway in how a judge scores a fight. So if counter shots matter more to you or power shots matter more to you than just pure points, I can see how you might have got 6-6. I can see how you might have got 6-6. That's not what I had. I had what the third judge, I've forgotten their name as well, but he had 8-4.
That's what I keep hearing.
For Triple G versus Canelo. And that's what I had. That's what Boxing News Network had. That's what like Ring Magazine had. That's basically what every credible source, I believe that's what the in-fight, but you can never go off the network scorecard. They're almost always a little off. But so that decision it blows my mind. I don't know. I mean, I understand how it happens because you've got one for a draw, one for Canelo, and one for one for Triple G. So you do end up with a draw. But how a judge ends up 10-2, that's pants on head, man. There's no way. Apparently,
she's taking some time off, and she's not going to be a judge at UFC 216 either.
She should never judge anything ever again, ever. I'm not one of these people that think she needs a slight little bit of time off. Mm-hmm. She should never judge in the sport of boxing or in any. She should never judge anything. She shouldn't be allowed to judge a pumpkin contest at the county fair because her eyeballs don't work.
Well, I don't know if this has any validity to it, but I have heard from a couple of different people that she may have been potentially paid off to favor Canelo, just because of her affiliations with things like. Yeah.
It's Oscar De La Hoya's promotion company.
Yeah, right. Okay. I wanted to say him, but I wasn't 100% on that.
She's just like a really notable judge, though. I mean, she's judged fights for just about everybody, from Floyd Mayweather to Golden Boy fighters to UFC fights, and honestly, this is the first time she's had scorecards that made people raise eyebrows. I just think she doesn't know what the hell she's doing, and I think that's it. And if somebody got to her and paid her off, it would make sense on how you could arrive at 10-2. But have you ever seen a picture of her? Yeah,
they released a picture of her that went along with the article saying that she wasn't going to be at UFC 216.
See the size of those glasses?
I mean, yeah, she, when I saw her, she looked like every school teacher ever. And you look at her and you're like, this woman judges fights? She doesn't look like someone who would have that job. It was strange. But one of the things that kind of got insinuated, I don't think they outright said it, but it kind of goes back to what we talked about before about fighting in general, combat sports in general, is starting to go towards making the money matches. And they this person I heard this from sort of insinuated that they were trying to make a rematch to get more money out of Canelo versus Golovkin. So I don't know if that is a reason. I mean, you would think that if that was what they were trying to do, they wouldn't make the Canelo favored scorecard 10-2 when every boxing expert gives it 8-4, maybe 9-3.
Well, here's the thing. They have to score as the fight's going. So I don't know if she was thinking that maybe one, and that's a weird thing, because like if you only pay off one judge, what if one other judge thinks Canelo wins the fight? And then now you got a Canelo victory. Or if you only pay off one judge, what if both judges of the other two judges land solidly on Triple G? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that could have ended with, a Triple G victory either way. Like, I mean, I could have understood how they might have landed on a draw if, like, you had, like, 7 rounds for Canelo, 5 for GGG. Like, that would be bad, but that wouldn't be like, were you even watching the fight? And I can see 6-6. I don't agree with it, but I can see it. The 8-4 in my mind is perfect. It's perfect. So whichever one of the three that was, hats off to him. Good job. Because that's what actually happened in my mind. Because since you didn't get to see it, I'll tell you basically like where Canelo showed like his best moments were a little bit later. He changed up his game plan a little bit, brought in a little more aggression, but was also still landing some counters and some really solid shots. But they weren't really hurting Triple G either. This even actually a moment where Triple G takes like a really hard shot and then just like shakes his head and looks at him and, like.
Well, they were also saying that, because again, I didn't see the fight. I haven't even seen the highlights. But apparently, Canelo was against the ropes a lot of the time, especially towards the latter part of the fight.
Yeah, he did spend a lot of time on the ropes trying to like. Well, that's kind of how Triple G fights. He puts a lot of pressure on guys because he's got a granite chin. He's one of the very best in boxing right now. Him and Vasyl Lomachenko. They're both amazing fighters, but Triple G puts on a lot of pressure. That's his fighting style. He's got good reach, he's got power in both hands, and he's got a granite chin. So it's a terror to have this man standing in front of you. So because of that, fighters tend to try to keep him just a little bit away. They don't want to get too close to him. So he ends up putting guys on the ropes very often, and he was able to do it to Canelo as well.
Mm-hmm. I have the scorecards up here. Don Trella was the draw, the 6-6, and Dave Moretti was in favor of Golovkin, and he had it. Let's see, he had it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He had it 7-5.
Well, I thought he had 8-4. That it should be, if I remember right, it's like the later rounds on his scorecards that he was giving to Canelo, right?
Yes, 10, 11, and 12 he gave to Canelo, 10-9. Mm-hmm. But he also gave the first 2 to Canelo, and the rest are Golovkin's. That's
basically pretty much the story of the fight. Canelo's start and finish were strong. Mm-hmm. And Triple G basically controlled the middle of the fight, but he also wasn't exactly getting, rattled early or late by what Canelo was doing. I feel like it was a very, and you should find it on YouTube or find it wherever you can find it. It might not be in English, but you can always find fights on YouTube, even if it's got like French commentary or something. But if you actually watch the fight, you'll see if your eyeballs are open, it's hard to come out with Triple G not winning that fight.
Actually, I have pulled up here because you're talking about when judges score boxing, you're talking about punches land versus miss and how effective those punches are. But I just wanted to clarify for anyone who doesn't know, the way that judges score boxing comes down to 4 different points. Effective aggression, ring generalship, which is the fighter who controls the action and enforces his will and the style of the fight. And then you have defense and then hard and clean punches. So maybe, I don't know, maybe Adelaide saw that, maybe she saw that Canelo was had better, well, he couldn't have had better generalship because he was, from what I gather from what people are saying, he was kind of on his heels for most of it. And
well, some guys like to fight that way. Floyd Mayweather likes to fight that way.
Oh, right. I mean, he
likes to fight going away.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. A person, I mean, Mayweather's a perfect example of that. Just because a fighter isn't throwing punches or moving forward, that doesn't mean that he's not controlling the style and the pace of that fight.
I don't know how you could get that out of that fight, though, because, I mean, Canelo, his strategy was sound, and I honestly think if he went with his late fight game plan earlier on, you might have seen a different result on that fight. But
she got paid.
Possibly.
She got paid. This isn't her first fight, dude. She's been doing this for a long time. Boxing and UFC. She knows what she's doing, allegedly. So
maybe she's just senile now.
She's that old?
Slipping into senility. I don't know how old she actually is. I just know to me she looks like an old pissed off English teacher.
She got
paid. I
don't
don't know why that person is scoring fights.
That's why I said she looked like a teacher. She looks like my 7th grade English teacher. The only difference are the glasses, but yeah, she looks exactly like her. I mean, she knows what she's doing. She's been doing it for a long time, like I said. So
it's not her first bad scorecard either.
I know.
I mean, I've raised my eyebrows at some of her scorecards in the past and gone like, how did she come to that conclusion?
Well, she still has a job, so I think she's getting paid.
I mean, it's possible, but she's suspended right now. That time off isn't time she's taken off. That's the Nevada State Athletic Commission is giving her time off.
Yeah, that's a PC way of saying you're suspended, I think.
Yeah, and if it was me, I mean, if I was a fighter signing a contract with the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and I was like a known fighter, a top fighter, like if I'm GGG trying to do they're thinking about a rematch between Canelo and GGG right now.
I don't know if it'll happen, man.
Canelo says he's uninterested, but that could also be, though, a ploy to increase what they're willing to pay him. Okay, you're uninterested at $20 million. How interested are you at 30? You know, it could be one of those things. He could be playing the money game. So we don't know if he's really uninterested or if he's got his eye on someone else. We don't know. But that rematch would make quite a bit of money. I lost my train of thought there, actually. But if I'm Triple G looking for a rematch for that fight, and it's going to happen in Las Vegas again. First of all, if I was him, I wouldn't even want to do it in Vegas. I don't want to do it in like California or New York or anywhere else. Was that his first time in Vegas? I don't think so. I wouldn't think so. No. He's a pretty famous fighter, pretty known fighter. I wouldn't think that's his first time in Vegas. While I was looking more into this Bird's scorecard controversy, someone said that was part of the reason why Canelo didn't look like himself is because nerves was getting to him because it was his first time in Vegas. That wasn't Canelo's first time in Vegas. Or no, sorry, Triple G. Oh, it could have been his first time in Vegas, but I didn't think it was. I know he's had a lot of major fights though. I would be really surprised to find that to be his first time in Vegas. That's one of the statistics I never really pay attention to is like where they fought. Well, you got to think, dude. You got to think. You think about this from a fighter's perspective. I mean, okay, me and you, we've been doing competitive fighting games for 6 years. Now, imagine going to a local tournament, which is really small, not a lot of players, not a lot at stake money-wise, and then you go to Evo. It's just a change of venue, but there's more people, there's more at stake, and it's more prestigious. That's going to give you more nerves, man, especially if you haven't been before. Well, yeah, because I actually definitely remember that because it was 2012. We had just done a local in Charlotte a month before going to Raleigh for MLG. Super different, dude. Oh my God, I remember that. So different. Like one was like a small tournament in a little hotel. You know, just a few setups, sitting there playing games with people. And the one we go in, and there's just like rows of setups, probably 30, 40 setups. There's MLG officials with, clipboards that know who's supposed to be fighting and where. There's a big stage set up with rows of chairs behind it. And, when you go up on it, everybody's watching and you're aware you're on a live stream with like thousands of people watching. So you're not playing in a little hotel with just people standing behind you watching and like maybe 30 people on stream. It's a totally different stage. They had some super weird rules there if you're
you remember, I tried to walk into the venue, which I believe it was at a hotel or a convention center attached to a hotel. But I tried to walk into where the venue actually was with I think it was a Pepsi. And they're like, no, you can't take that in there. Okay, why? Well, this event's sponsored by Dr. Pepper. And if you don't have a Dr. Pepper, you can't take it in there. What? That's the scale that this event was at. It's MLG. It's Major League Gaming. So to compare that to the local, it's night and day difference. But I mean, going back to the original point, Adelaide Bird should probably, first of all, give up who her supplier is because she's getting paid. And she should probably not judge fights anymore, especially if she's known to have controversial scorecards in the past.
Yeah, like some of the others weren't quite like as controversial as this, but she's just had cards that I'm like, really? What were you watching?
Yeah. But, dude, speaking of fighting games, did you watch any of the Injustice Pro series?
I haven't yet, man. I know Fox won it. I know that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's a big deal, especially for the NetherRealm Studios community of fighting games, because it was aired on ESPN, which is, I mean, obviously it's a huge deal for competitive fighting games, period. But, yes, Sonic Fox won, of course. He is definitely the GOAT of NRS fighting games. You know how much money he won?
How much?
You're going to throw up.
Probably not.
He won $120,000.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good for him, man. He's been the best for a long time. And I mean, other people have like brief little bits of time at the top.
He's definitely the richest fighting game player in the NRS community because, I mean, that's $120,000 for that event.
Well, he won the $100,000 one in MKX.
Yeah, I mean, combining all of his winnings throughout the years, I mean, how much do you think he's won? Maybe $500,000?
He's got to be approaching that.
It's absolutely insane. But to make six figures in a day. Now, granted, it was the Pro Series, so this was over the course of a few months to get to the event period, because it was only I want to say it was only the top 8 players in the world of the whole series. But yeah, just absolutely insane. I can't imagine winning that much money for being the best at a video game.
But it's one of those things. I mean, you're paid for like what you're bringing in. There's, a lot of people, a lot of views, and a lot of sponsorships behind that to make that happen. And you're also dealing with, I think it's one of those things that, because it's very approachable, that people don't quite understand how hard it is to reach that level. So, I mean, I'm kind of glad to see the money coming toward esports, or at least toward the fighting game sector of esports. It's actually already been there in like StarCraft and, other League of Legends, other really big venues.
Oh yeah, that's why I put such an emphasis on NRS community, because there's been $1 million tournaments before in video games. But I think individually, like just as a person individually, yeah, I think you can work up to that level. But you also got to take in consideration of the circumstances of your life. Do you have a job? Do you have kids, married? Do you have the time to put in to a video game with the intention of being the best in the world? I mean, that's the rare part. That's the real rare part.
And I think you could apply that to other things too. Because look at Conor McGregor. We all know that this guy literally, was cashing a welfare check not even like 4 or 5 years ago. In Ireland, he couldn't afford a $250 walkout song.
Damn.
This guy, if you've never seen that, look that up. That's actually a pretty awesome story. Like he's like trying to convince the guy to let him use the song and that he'll pay him later because he knows he's going to be a success. Like his belief in himself is like there even then.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have like that. He doesn't have the money yet. And fast forward to what he just got paid for fighting Floyd Mayweather.
He got so rich and so famous, so successful in such a short amount of time. That's probably the most admirable part about him.
But he always believed he'd get there. But Conor took that time. He made that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, when you look at it that way, I mean, I think if you want something bad enough, you will find a way to make it happen. Or, I mean, there are limiting circumstances that can be big enough. Like, you know, if you're missing fingers, you're probably not going to be a fighting game champion. If you're missing a leg, you're probably not going to be UFC champion. But there are limiting factors that can be like hard limiters, but then there's a bunch of soft limiters that we impose on ourselves. You know, if you want something bad enough, you'll lose some sleep for it.
It's shutting that voice up in your head. I think the true rare thing is being able to fail, because you have to fail in order to succeed. Otherwise, you don't know how to succeed. But the rare thing that Conor possesses, and I'm sure Sonic Fox possesses as well, is learning how to not to give in to that voice and let it control them. Like, you try something, you fail at it, you feel like you want to quit. Conor said, no, I'm going to learn from this and be better. And
well, look at Conor's response to losing to Nate Diaz at 165. It requests an immediate rematch that doesn't happen at his or Nate's natural weight. So he immediately requests the rematch at 165. Immediately requests the rematch at the exact same weight, the exact same conditions he lost in. He wanted to redo what he just failed at. Immediately. Like, it took him no time to want that. And that's what you're talking about. That's the ladder to success, is being willing to fail, because he looked at that failure and he said, I can do that better. Let's do it again. Let's run it again. I want it right now.
That's super scary for a lot of people, though. The fear of failure is crippling for a lot of people.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's kind of like that idea of, you know, you miss every shot you never take. I mean, so you might fail. You really might. You might go out, you might get your ass handed to you. You're probably going to get your ass handed to you a few times. But the thing that separates, I mean, Floyd Mayweather was a bronze medal Olympian. Wasn't a gold medal. He didn't just wreck everybody in the amateurs. He lost actually a few amateur fights. So it's not like he never tasted defeat. There's no great person that hasn't tasted defeat. So I think if you can't get over that fear, that's the biggest limiter.
But you also have some people, I'm not making this argument, but I am saying that some people might have the argument that, well, Mayweather had the advantage of having his dad as a trainer, his uncle as a trainer, who are both professional fighters as well. So he had sort of an advantage that not a lot of fighters had.
That's true.
But with not only the knowledge that they could give him, but the connections they can give him too. I mean, it really is not about what you know. It's who you know. And that could also be a thing, but you can't deny that Mayweather is the best fighter, the best boxer of all time. But did he have a rare advantage that no one else gets? Maybe.
Then I'll give you another example of a guy who definitely didn't have an advantage. A young man from Louisville, Kentucky, who walked into a gym, who would later become, you know, the greatest heavyweight of all time, bar none, Muhammad Ali. And do you know what he was told after coming to the gym his first day?
Probably that he sucks.
They told him not to come back. They thought he was so bad that they told him not to come back. But, you know, he would later, you know, of course, go on to win an Olympic gold medal for this country. He came back to this country, went into a diner wearing the medal. You know, he was so proud of it. And was told that we don't serve colored people. After winning, literally just won an Olympic gold medal for his country. So he went out and he literally took the gold medal off and tossed it in the river.
What?
Yeah, yeah, that's a story from early in Muhammad Ali's career. He threw it away.
Never knew that.
Yeah, so this guy, he got rejected in his life. He went on to become one of the greatest heavyweights of all time and a civil rights leader. And he didn't have people behind him pumping him up and telling him he could do it. And he didn't have, you know, these advantages. He had to fight and scratch and claw for everything he got. And it just made him better. It was sheer will to come back every single day and get better until he was the greatest. He had people telling him that he sucked when he was winning heavyweight boxing matches because his style was unusual.
That's crazy. I think that might be a true success story. I mean, I never knew that about him. So how much will do you think Ronda would have to need to beat Cyborg?
Probably more than she has.
Apparently, Cyborg has already declined it. Like, she doesn't want to fight Ronda.
Well, she said no on one day, and then like the very next day, she said she still thinks it should happen in something like WWE, but if Ronda wants to make the fight for the fans, she'll do it.
Oh, for God's sakes, don't do WWE. What the hell? A fake fight? You want to do a fake fight?
It's just a ploy. All she's doing, that's a ploy. She'll never enter WWE. I mean, but you know who Ronda is, right? Yeah, Ronda is currently working with talent development for WWE. She's been on like a few set promo segments and stuff for WWE already. She's going to be in WWE.
Oh, God. I mean,
she's basically going to pull a Ken Shamrock. That's what she's going to do with her UFC fame.
I know there's a lot of diehard Ronda Rousey fans, and I mean, you have to respect her for what she did for the female division of MMA, but I can't respect her. I can't respect her as a fighter because she tucked tail and left when she got beat twice. And, she went on to movie deals and, things like that. Now she's talking about going to WWE. Man, to me,
she's definitely going to WWE. It's like a done deal.
Okay, but that's not, to me, that's not a real fighter, man. I mean, that's just someone who can fight and who happened to go into the UFC at the right time with the right style to become famous off of it.
Well, okay, so I feel like I don't want to call her not a real fighter because, I mean, her dominance can't be denied. I mean, Kat Zingano, several of the people that she beat, Miesha Tate, are good fighters. Miesha came out and beat Holly after Holly wrecked her.
You can't say that she's the most dominant when she got fucking destroyed by Holly Holm and Nunes. I mean, she can't be the most dominant. She can't be the best. She just came in at the right time.
I mean, that time period, I mean, the women's division is obviously stronger now than it was then. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, for sure.
But she still, I mean, I don't think we have the UFC women's division that we have now without Ronda.
She's definitely a trailblazer. She definitely paved the way for female fighters. But she's nowhere near the best. She's not the most dominant,
She was winning like that in Strikeforce too, though, before coming to the UFC. That's actually where that's where the rivalry between her and Cyborg began, right?
I may have heard that. I think I heard that, yeah.
And everybody wanted to see the two of them go at it. Well, Ronda refused to come up in weight, and Cyborg, as we know, cannot make 135. She was nearly killing herself to make that 140 catchweight shit they were doing before the UFC actually made a 145 for women.
Yeah.
So the way I see it, and of course Cyborg has been caught for doing steroids in the past too, and Ronda blasted her hard for it. And that, that fueled the fire for the rivalry. But at the time in Strikeforce, where this rivalry began in Strikeforce, they were equally dominant champions in two side-by-side divisions. That's where it began.
So they wanted to unify the titles or something?
Not really wanting to unify the titles, but how sometimes in the UFC you'll have guys that are 10 pounds apart as champions, and you just want to see those two fight so bad.
Oh, of course, yeah.
We've got one going right now, Cody Garbrandt.
Yeah, and Dillashaw, right?
And that's actually in both directions for Cody, because Cody's at 135. I'd love to see him go down and fight Mighty Mouse, or up and fight Dillashaw, which of course he's going to fight Dillashaw.
I don't think he'll go to Mighty Mouse. I think Mighty Mouse will destroy Garbrandt.
I'm actually not so sure.
I'm pretty sure. I just think
Cody's legit, man.
I know. No. I'm not taking anything away from Cody Garbrandt. He's an amazing fighter. But if he went down to Mighty Mouse's world, I mean, that's where Mighty Mouse lives. And if he tried to go down in weight to try to take on the best, arguably pound for pound fighter ever, I don't think he's going to make it, man. He has to cut weight to meet Mighty Mouse where he's comfortable. So I don't see Garbrandt winning that fight at all.
It's possible.
Well, anything's possible, but I just don't see. It's not likely to me.
But not to derail too far from the Ronda Cyborg thing. So I mean that rivalry's got like a long history, and then of course the UFC refused to make a 145 division because they didn't think they had enough women to create it, and they thought the division would be soft. In fact, they just now basically created that division just for Chris Cyborg. And have got, other girls coming into like Chris Cyborg's next fight is going to be Holly Holm.
Which division?
10 pounds to fight her, 145. So for Cyborg to be in the UFC and not like be killing herself, because if you look up photos of her trying to make 140, there's literally like a video that her own trainers put on YouTube to show why she should not be trying to make 140 of her like post like sauna sweat out, like on the floor crying, saying she can't do this.
I remember seeing that. I'm looking it up now just for the pictures of it, but I remember seeing that video of her basically just crying, like, dude.
She was literally like killing herself to make that weight. Oh my
God. There's a side-by-side comparison of her at her normal weight versus her fight weight. Man, they need to add more weight classes for especially fighters like her that just can't make it that low.
Well, they did. That's why they added 145, which 145 is a tough cut for her, but it's not like 140. Like she described that before, that like making 145 is tough, but that those extra 5 pounds to get to 140 are absolute hell.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize when you're talking about cutting weight for fighters is that if you take a fighter that's like, say, 150 and put him up against a fighter that's 160, in fighting, especially MMA, that is a huge difference, first of all, in power and just a lot of different factors. But if you were to try to lose that weight, I mean, you might be able to lose 10 pounds in water, but that's super hard and it drains you completely.
I mean, if you're already cutting weight to make 145,
right?
To cut 10 more pounds. Like, she doesn't walk around at 145.
No, she probably walks around at what, 155, 160?
I'd say she probably walks around about 160, if I had to guess.
How tall is she, do you know?
Not off the top of my head, but I know like 10 to 15 pounds over where they fight is pretty normal for a lot of fighters.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, she probably walks around 155 to 160. But to cut from 155 to 160... to cut 25 pounds.
When you're already at like 3% body fat, dude, that's...
I don't know if it's 3%, but it's
well,
low.
I was just throwing a number out there, but yeah, I mean, there's nothing to lose except water. I mean, you're on the verge of death just to get on a scale for 5 seconds. And after that, you can drink water again and you can gain another, 10 pounds or whatever it is before the fight. But just to get on that scale to make weight, they have to be on the verge of death.
But so that was always the old argument, is that Ronda wasn't coming up and Cyborg wasn't going down. So you never really got to see the resolution of this, like two fighters who like legitimately kind of hate each other. Like if you've seen the stuff they've said about each other over the years, you never got to see the resolution of, the question of who's better, our 135 champion or our 145 champion. And then of course, before you get that resolution, you've got how Ronda's career, if she doesn't come back, ended, which is a vicious head kick knockout from Holly Holm after a vicious beating that came before it. Like Ronda hardly even had good moments in that fight.
Yeah, and then Nunes finished her in the first round as well.
Yeah, and then Holly, it took 2 rounds for Holly. Holly was taking a more measured pace.
Right. But it's still vicious ways to lose a match both times.
Yeah, it's 2 hard, brutal knockouts back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the idea is, if I'm the UFC, I don't make this fight. But I mean, money might matter more to them than fighter safety, and it clearly does.
It clearly does.
But if they make that fight, I mean, mark my words right now, and everybody can blow me up if I'm wrong on this, Ronda Rousey is walking in there a lamb to the slaughter. Because
I don't think a lot of people disagree with you, man.
It's been shown that elite level strikers are beyond her.
Right. I mean, Ronda's not a striker. She's a judo expert with some clinch game. She's not a striker. Cyborg is a striker. She will murk Ronda.
A lot of the reason Ronda's career took the turn it did is her coach is shit.
Oh my God. He's so bad. If
you want any more, like, proof that his career is shit, look how well Travis Brown was doing and how shit he's done since he moved to Edmonds camp.
It's been said when it was being talked about of her coming back to fight Nunes, and I mean, even after, especially after, they were talking about her trainers and how he treats Ronda, and, the discussion came up to why doesn't Ronda leave? Like, why doesn't he dump him as a coach? If it was my career, if I was a fighter and I noticed that my coach was being shitty, like he's literally toxic for Ronda. And if I saw that as a fighter and that was my coach, man, I'm sorry. You were my first coach. I'm, loyal, blah, 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 bullshit. But I got to let you go, man. You're not what I need to further my career.
Well, he also doesn't know how to actually progress her forward. Like, all the, like, strike work that he's done with her is good, but it's not what she really needs. You see, she needs, like, grappler type striking. She needs to know enough striking to strike well enough to get her in range for her grab game. She doesn't need to try to become a striker.
Well, that's a lot of striking. That's a lot of striking skill, man, to be able to close in that distance and get in the pocket, get chest to chest so you can get into a clinch. I mean, you have to develop some pretty high level striking to get to that.
It is, but there's, feints and things that, she should know by this point that, at least from watching their training videos, I've never seen him showing any of that stuff. And I think, if she was to have, after the Holly Holm fight said, screw this, gone over to maybe like, just to throw out an example, like Team Alpha Male, mm-hmm. and got to get in there with like Uriah Faber and see like the way he uses striking to get into his grappling game. And
that's Garbrandt's team, right?
That's Garbrandt's team, yes.
Yeah.
And it was Dillashaw's team whenever he won the title. And interestingly enough, he lost it away from Team Alpha Male.
Interesting.
So I think they're one of the very best, if not the best, teams in fighting right now. Of course, there's always American Top Team and up there.
Yeah, they're super good too.
But I really think that if she'd gone somewhere like that and got a chance to like really develop her skills and develop in ways that aren't just, developing what she's already got,
mm-hmm.
I think that her career could have taken a different trajectory. Maybe she could have beat Amanda Nunes if she had, better. Because like, there's a point where like she's already hurt and she's just getting tagged by Nunes, and he's over there in the corner just shouting head movement at her.
Move your head.
Yeah, she should know that.
Yeah, she fights for a living. I think moving her head is pretty second nature, or it should be, right?
Yeah, like if a fighter isn't moving their head, they're probably already hurt.
Or tired.
Yeah, that too. And, it reminds me, in a way, she's almost like the UFC's Mike Tyson.
That's exactly how I think of her, actually.
Explodes onto the scene, dominates everybody, and then someone comes out, beats her, and she's not quite the same again after getting beat.
Who was the person that beat Tyson that there was a noticeable shift in his career?
Buster Douglas.
Okay, see, I was thinking Buster Douglas, but I didn't know if there was another one that was like a turning point. But yeah,
well, the real death point of his career was Evander Holyfield.
Well, yeah, there was that. But that's how I viewed her, is that she's so dominant. She's such like a pit bull style, just like Tyson. And as soon as someone shows her that doesn't work against me, well, shit, what do I do now?
Exactly. And so I see it like if she comes back, and especially if she comes back and trains with Edmund again, and she moves up 10 pounds in weight, because Cyborg physically cannot move down 10 pounds in weight. It can't happen. The only way it happens is if Ronda comes up 10 pounds in weight.
Well, with featherweight coming in, there's no reason for her to cut weight. Just say, I want featherweight.
Right. So I think if you get her in there with Cyborg, I think you see a mauling worse than pretty much anything you've seen in the UFC in a long time, because the strength advantage belongs to Cyborg. if they get on the ground, the advantage will belong to Cyborg unless Ronda can just magically trap that arm.
I don't see it. Well, she does have really interesting ways into arm bars, but I don't see it happening against Cyborg.
She's got really creative setups for it, but I don't see Cyborg letting it happen. So I think you see basically a lamb to slaughter scenario here. Cyborg is faster and hits harder than anyone Ronda's ever faced. Her kicks are absolutely vicious. Her punches are vicious. Her demeanor and her style are vicious.
If it does happen, let's just say it does happen, they agree to whatever terms, do you actually think it'll be a draw with the whole hype of her fighting Nunes and how it ended?
Ah, shit, man, I'd watch it.
You can't deny that there were people watching the Rousey-Nunes fight because it was Ronda Rousey. Like, she was a superstar. And it was her major comeback. But because of how that fight ended, do you actually think that it'll have a big draw?
Well, actually, here's a little bit of an idea. First, before this can even happen, Ronda will probably actually hit the WWE before this can actually happen.
Fuck that shit.
Her star will rise a little bit more with that fan base. I mean, no hate for the WWE. I love those guys. I love what they do. Just it's not. It's not fighting.
Yeah, you can't compare it.
It's a totally different thing.
Exactly.
So I mean, not to get too big on a tangent there with WWE. So I'll steer away from that one.
She's following Brock Lesnar's path. I mean, he still makes a draw. I mean, if Brock Lesnar was to come back and fight John Jones, people are going to buy that shit.
Absolutely.
I'd buy that shit in a minute.
Absolutely. And plus, I mean, don't even test them. They're both doing voids.
Yeah. So, shoot them up with everything. Everything that you have on your shelf, put it in their bodies and let them, throw ham fists at each other. I want to see it.
Just make them as big as you can get them and let them go.
Yeah. If I don't see Brock Lesnar looking like just a moving mountain with arms, with his fry pan hands, I don't want to see it.
I want to see Brock Lesnar fight the guy that plays in the mountain on Game of Thrones.
Oh, he'd destroy him. He'd destroy him.
Well, the mountain apparently spars with Connor.
Oh man, that was just for fun. Okay, first of all,
but that means he's actually in an MMA gym and training. So if that dude does MMA too, that's frightening because that dude's 400 pounds.
Nah, fuck that shit, man. He's an actor, all right. I mean, he was a strong man. He competed. He
still is a strong man. Actually, the acting he only does for Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but see, the thing, he was probably just in that gym because, he's trying to get in shape for a strongman competition, or he was just in a gym to get, for the show. He's not a fighter. Brock Lesnar is, it's debatable if Brock Lesnar is a quote-unquote fighter. He is definitely a wrestler, and he would mop the mountain.
Yeah, no, but I'd still love to see it.
For sure.
Wouldn't be the strongest for once, Brock wouldn't be the strongest person.
No, I mean, but it's a freak show, right? I mean, it's two freaks going at it. So I would pay $100.
I don't want to see that as an MMA fan. I want to see that the same way, Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. This shit shouldn't even be happening, but I want to see it anyway.
Oh man, can you imagine what is the mountain 7 feet tall and fucking it's 400 pounds?
It's 6'9", 400 and something pounds.
God mighty.
He's an absolute freak of a human being. I mean, the mountain is about right. But
man, and Brock Lesnar makes an average man look like I don't know, man. Brock Lesnar is a freak of a person anyway. And what is he, 6'5"?
6'4", I think.
6'4", but he's 6'4", but he also weighs 260 of pure fucking Viking muscle. And I would love to see that fight. If it was a fight at all, it's just a freak show, like I said, but I would love to see it.
Well, and to return a little bit to the point that we got steered way off.
Yeah. Sorry.
whether that fight would be a draw or not, Ronda and Cyborg.
Yeah.
So Ronda's name will always make her somewhat of a draw.
Not to me, man. Not to me. I have no desire to see her. I have a desire to see Cyborg, but I have no desire to see Rousey.
Yeah, you see, you're actually getting ahead to where I'm going to be coming from with why I think this fight will be a draw.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Or would be a draw. Because The next fight for Cyborg is up against Holly Holm, former Ronda Rousey opponent.
Shit.
Former Ronda Rousey opponent, coming up in weight for a title fight with Cyborg.
I have Cyborg.
And
I'm betting money on Cyborg.
I have Cyborg too, but I also have a hard time doubting Holly Holm, and the reason is, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know Holly's background, Holly is a former world boxing champion, and also in boxing too.
Oh, really? I thought she was just kickboxing.
She's a former world boxing champion, a former world kickboxing champion, and she's the person that ended Ronda Rousey's reign. She's
more known for her kickboxing, though, right?
She's more known for her boxing to me, because like her professional boxing record has like over 30 wins and like a long reign as champion. She won a lot of boxing matches. Hang on, I will actually go ahead and pull up.
We should probably look it up.
I was gonna say I will actually pull up Holly's boxing record. If you'll pull up her kickboxing record, I'll pull up her boxing record. She had 33 wins and 38 fights in boxing.
Okay, so she was only an amateur kickboxer. Okay,
right, but an amateur champion still.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So whenever you look at that fight, Holly is an elite striker, like a true elite striker, a great counter striker, and that's part of why I'm like, I know that like my head kind of says that it could actually go either way because of the way Holly fights as a counter striker. You could see Cyborg coming in to try to land some of those big shots, and you could see her walking into some of Holly's setups.
Yeah.
Oh, here's something interesting to add before we like really dig in there.
Okay.
Holly Holm was a welterweight world boxing champion. She's been fighting at 135 in the UFC, but when she was a boxing champion, that welterweight, it's the same for women as it is for men. Welterweight is 147 pounds. So that means that's actually probably closer to where she's comfortable than the 130s.
Whoa. So she might be a true contender for featherweight once that gets into effect.
Ooh, that could be awesome, actually. This fight could actually be even better than I had it in my head.
Yeah, this got super interesting. Hold on. Let's think about this.
Okay, so Holly is a counter striker. If she's comfortable at that weight, could really cause some damage. But also, looking at her record, you don't see a lot of knockouts, so you're not seeing a whole lot of power in the boxing world. But of course, kicks are a thing in UFC, and she's got some of the best kicks in the women's division that I've seen. Period. Like
she might have the best, in my opinion.
Like, her leg kicks are quick and sharp, and her head kicks can kind of come from nowhere. And she also uses that side kick that John Jones and Conor McGregor both use, that like quick side kick to the thigh or stomach.
Oh God, yes.
She also uses it.
I can't. I hate seeing that, man. I just can't imagine seeing that go to a thigh and hitting your knee. Oh God.
So she also uses that kick. I've also seen her use that, kind of surprising elbow in some of her sparring footage too. So she's got the counter shots.
Holmes does?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would put like the counter game in her favor.
Now, if we want to reapproach this topic in next week's episode or in a future episode, because I want to watch more of Cyborg's fights, just because I want to see how she approaches people that she wants to get close to, like what different angles and setups she uses. Because to me, just off the top of my head, I feel like that's what she has to do to beat Holmes, not only if she went for a submission or a knockout, but in points as well. I think Holly Holm would beat her in points standing up.
You see, to me, I think the strategy for Holm is to try to keep it extended, try to make Cyborg work, because Cyborg is still going to come in a little bit bigger. She's gonna cut more to get to that 145. So I think
she'll probably come in at like 150 or a little above. On fight night, not weigh in, on fight night.
Oh, yeah. Probably after water. So, I mean, she'll probably come in a little heavier. So, I think what Holly's strategy is going to have to be is is to try to force Cyborg to engage when she doesn't want to engage and land those counters and try to work into Cyborg's gas tank. Because it's been a while since Cyborg's been 5 rounds. It's been a long time. Because she's such a killer that she usually finishes people before then.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm Holly, I'm game planning to take her into the deep water.
That's kind of a running thing, too, isn't it? If it's a fighter that's used to knocking people out in the first 1 or 2 rounds, they can't go the distance.
I mean, some of them can and some of them can't. But it's been a while since Cyborg's been to the cards.
All right, I changed my mind. I'll buy this fight.
I was gonna say, it's actually, as I'm looking at it, it's an even better fight than I thought it was.
This, yeah, I want to see this fight. When are they talking about? Are they making negotiations now?
Oh no, it's a done deal. This is.
Oh, I thought they were just talking about it.
No, this is Cyborg's next fight.
Oh no, that's right. The Cyborg Rousey thing was.
That's what they're just talking about.
Yeah. When is this? This is 216, isn't it? Right? Or 217 rather? Hold on, let me look it up.
Let me see if I can get the exact date of this fight, because I thought it was a done deal. I'm going to be disappointed if it's not.
No, it's not 216.
Holy crap, am I totally wrong about this? Like, I thought they'd already made this fight.
Yeah, I don't see it, man. Let me, just by chance, they've made some fights for 218. Nope.
Okay, all that's been done is immediately after winning the title, Chris Cyborg said she was down for it. And Holm has said that she is down for it if they aren't going to do something like make her fight 135, then 145, then 135.
That makes sense.
That's smart, dude.
Yeah.
If they give her time to go to 145, man, we've been theory fighting a theoretical fight. See?
Oh my god.
Theoryception. Okay, apparently they're eyeing it for UFC 219.
Yeah, and that's another thing I kind of was thinking about this week was, don't you think they're kind of making these cards a little too fast, a little too much? That's
kind of what they've always done. They've always tried to have basically an event a month, but that's not really anything new for them.
I think they should kind of cool it a little bit.
I actually think you stick with this strategy because, I mean, somebody's going to come out and, granted, you might have a low pay-per-view buy, right? But they're not losing money on that pay-per-view. I mean, they pay their fighters so little, they ain't losing shit.
That's so sad.
So sooner or later, you're going to have some pay-per-view where, like, something amazing is going to happen, and people are going to miss it, and then now it's all over social media, and people are going like, oh, man, I didn't order that card because I thought it was going to suck, and then look at this shit I missed. And I mean, I've paid for fight cards before just because I didn't want to miss something, and then, you know, turned out to be a absolutely great card. And that's how I learned about, you know, certain fighters that I really want to know. I mean, how many people do you think didn't buy the TJ Dillashaw versus Renan Barao fight because the main event had to be altered at the last minute, and then they missed Renan Barao being absolutely demolished and dissected by a guy who was a 16-1 underdog?
You will buy that card. But the mass majority of especially UFC fans, they're not going to buy a pay-per-view unless they see a name that they recognize. But, I mean, how else are you going to develop a star?
But that's part of how you develop that name. Like, those people that aren't going to buy until they recognize a star, well, part of how they recognize a star is, you know, people like us or, you know, notable people or far more notable people, you know, in the MMA world start talking about them a lot. They start hearing their friends mention this person's name all the time.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
Because at one point I was a casual UFC fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine was hardcore into it, so much that he'd have like fight nights at his house. And the first one I attended, I literally attended just to play beer pong and drink. I didn't like really know that much about the UFC. And we get there, and these fights are awesome. So how I would find out about fighters at that point is I'd hear this dude talk about him first, because he was like super into it. And if he was into a fighter, I'd go start YouTubing their matches and trying to catch up and see like, all right, why does he like this guy so much? What's so special about this dude? And, you know, see that fight and then be like, holy crap, that guy's amazing. So like him being a fan created another fan, which now I'm talking about it. And I'm sure some people that I talked to about that fighter then when looked up at that, you know, looked that person up. So people like, me watching the event and then going and talking to more casual fans about how awesome this fighter is could lead to that fighter becoming more popular and then being a draw. I mean, that's how Conor's star was built. Of course, his ability to talk too, but it was dominant fight, and people just not stopping talking about him.
Back in the day, like the early to mid 2000s, I never watched any fight that was below the light heavyweight division.
Oh.
I know. Dude, believe me, I've seen fights of the past and I regret that to this day. But I remember the first small guy, quote unquote, fighter that captured my attention, and it was completely by accident. It was literally, I was flipping through channels, nothing was on, and I stopped at WEC back when, that was a thing. And it was,
I bet it's Uriah Faber.
Exactly. Uriah Faber.
I said WEC, that's why I knew it was coming.
Yeah. But I, for the life of me, I couldn't tell you who he was fighting, but his style and just everything made me stop, and I started watching that. And it eventually got to the point that I was watching WEC just for Uriah Faber. And
I think to get Uriah Faber is half the reason the UFC bought WEC.
Maybe. I mean, he was one of a few stars of the WEC, and they eventually came to UFC as well. But I think that's something that a lot of people need to keep in mind, is that it's not about the heavyweights and it's not about the light heavyweights. As a matter of fact, it's probably the bantamweights, lightweights, featherweights that are like the most entertaining.
Well, for a long time, the light heavyweight division was like so competitive. It had so many great fighters at it that it was like the era. John Jones basically like ended this era. Actually, there was an era where like the light heavyweight title just kept changing hands because people were like really evenly matched.
Well, let's try to list those fighters of the day, the light heavyweights of the day.
Chuck Liddell, Lyoto Machida, Mauricio Shogun, Tito Ortiz. I mean,
Liddell. I mean, it was just, dude, it was the superstars of the UFC. They were all in this one division.
And then, John Jones came along and then just sat on top with the crown for so long that like the light heavyweight division almost feels stagnant.
Yeah. But I mean, before John Jones, you had Shogun and Machida. Rashad Evans kind of stayed in for a while.
Dan Henderson.
And now it's so widespread that you kind of don't know who to look or what division to look at.
You even had Anderson Silva would sometimes take fights at light heavyweight.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and Anderson would sometimes to get when they need somebody to fill in because he didn't have to cut weight to make light heavyweight.
Yeah, but he was basically a middleweight. I mean, he was a natural middleweight fighter.
Chael Sonnen even fought at light heavyweight once.
Yeah.
It didn't go well.
Yeah.
Because it was against John Jones.
Exactly. So, but the point is, I mean, you just have so many divisions to pay attention to, and it's kind of hard to pay attention to all of them. Before we get too much further into this topic, because we could literally go all day talking about UFC and boxing and just fighting in general, I think we should go ahead and end it right here. But thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it, and we hope you enjoyed. But until next week, my name is Sean.
And I'm John.
Thank you very much. Have a good week, everybody.